Ed, it's Bob and Tony here. How you been, my friend?
Hi, Ed.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing well, Ed, and again, we can't thank you enough for your cooperation, again, on this show as we end our 10-year run on here, and of course, we will continue to talk on Thursday Night Tailgate. It's always a pleasure. For our folks out there at home, a little bio on Ed, again, from Indio, California, went to the University of California, was a terrific ball player out there, consensus All-American player in the late 60s, went on to play with the Vikings and the Chargers from 69 to 85, made numerous Pro Bowl appearances, was in the Super Bowl a few different times, and again, many different types of Halls of Fame. We think he should be in the NFL Hall of Fame. That goes without saying, but again, Ed has been a great fan of the show, and thanks again, Ed, for joining us as usual. And we want to have you remind us, Ed, of your days growing up out on the West Coast. Tell us if you were involved in other sports, Ed, in California, or was it all about football with you?
No, actually, I was a three-sport guy. Mm-hmm. I was a shot putter. I threw the shot put 61 inches my senior year, and I was a wrestler, and did pretty well on actually both the other sports, and and then concentrated on football when I went on to college.
And how about as far as your the guys you follow, like some of your sports heroes and your favorite teams when you were a kid? Let us in on that, Ed.
Well, I grew up listening to the Rams, and so it's kind of fun watching them because they've got the Cal quarterback there going, and they're looking pretty good, as well as the Vikings and the Chargers. So I'm doing pretty good this year. But I grew up, watching the Rams, and one of my buddies that I played ball with in high school at Indio High School, they had like toy dolls, and I was Joe Chabelli. I had a Joe Chabelli doll.
Oh, I remember.
It was a little like a ceramic, and we'd butt heads like we were actually going at it. and we were around nuts. And and then the electronic game that vibrated, and you had the little players and stuff. So we were all into that with the Rams, and it was fun.
There was nothing.
Fun growing up there.
Yeah, there was nothing like watching here on the East Coast at 4:00 games from the L.A. Coliseum. Joe Chabelli.
Used to watch a lot.
Oh my goodness, Jack Snow and great stuff. And as we talk to Ed, we have many different pictures of Ed on the TV screen at different parts of his career. Tony, question.
Ed, it's a pleasure once again to have you. And somehow you play college football in California. You end up in Minnesota. You end up working with a guy by the name of Joe Kapp, who came from Canada. He was an actor. He was a tough Chicano. What was he like to be around?
Well, I got to add this too. He also played at Berkeley, so I was taken under his wing, so to speak, and in some ways good and some bad. I never knew what tequila was until I did show.
Oh boy!
So that was not a good experience. But I was a defensive lineman in college, and they had the purple people eaters, and so they said, you know what, we may not need you over there, so we're going to move you to guard. So I was the guard, and the starting guard, my rookie year, I got appendicitis attack, and his name was Jim Balone, and I played the first quarter of our Super Bowl season, actually. And so that was quite an experience for me, but the best thing was that was Joe's final year with us, and then he went on to New England. But it was a great experience playing with Joe.
And we've talked in the past, Ed, about so many of the Hall of Famers you play with in Minnesota, and especially some of those defensive players like your Alan Pages, your Carl Ellers. There was obviously some on offense too, but going against those guys in practice every day on the defensive side, obviously, did that make you a better player?
Oh, there's no question. I you see it today with the teams. You know, the Rams, I think, are a good example. The Vikings are a good example. The defensive lines, the better they get, and the Chargers are as well. Their defensive lines are very formidable, and all of a sudden, these guys have good offensive lines, and it's one begets the other.
And great players. Again, some of them, Paul Krause was on those teams, Tony, and then, of course, on the offensive
Jim
side.
Marshall.
Yeah. Incredible. And, of course, on the offensive side, your Mick Tingelhoffs, Tarkenton, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great teams to watch. And how about Bud Grant as a coach? That was your only man in Minnesota. Seemed like a very stoic guy. Kind of stoic, Ed, but was he intense at times? Tell us, bring him into his personality.
I wouldn't use the word intense. Intense in that he was serious.
Yeah.
Very, very serious. He was, I always likened Bud to a great military general. He just the type of personality that is very quiet and, saw a lot of things and, knew what to do and what was going on and was just a great coach. I mean, I was so lucky to play 17 years for the two coaches that are, one's should go in this year into the Hall of Fame, and the other one's been in the Hall of Fame, and it's just a very, very neat thing for me.
Yeah, and of course Bud Grant, the other one in San Diego, Don Coryell, who
Don Coryell.
You talk about an innovator, and a la your anybody that played Air Coryell was it was something else, and we talk about
like I told somebody that they were grousing about who wasn't in the Hall of Fame, and there's a lot of guys that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't in the Hall of Fame. The hall's only so big, and so, but Tom Flores certainly winning a Super Bowl, but I don't know that one game. I made the comment. I don't know that one game is the measure of whether a guy should be in the Hall of Fame or not. Not when you're one of the few coaches in the history of football that won 100 games at the high school level, the college level, and the pro level. That's an unbelievable accomplishment.
That's quite a task, yeah.
And and Coryell, he invented the I formation when he was at SC as a coordinator. And, just throwing the ball and Zampese and all the guys that came under him, Joe Gibbs, and several guys, Ray Perkins. There's just a lot of people that schooled under Coach.
Again.
So I'd like to see that happen, but, whoever controls it, and it would be neat if he went in and.
Yeah. Again, we are on the phone with former All-Pro lineman Ed White, who played, again, 17 years for the Vikings and Chargers between 69 and 85. Tony.
And Ed, you go from Joe Cap and you wind your way around to Fran Tarkenton, and there's this crazy little man that ran all over the field and scrambled, and the plays were long. I mean, how did you guys feel about it? I mean, did you feel you were part of this great team effort, or did you want them to stop? Because it's like, how often could you do this?
Well, the game back then was a little different, and Francis was kind of a revolutionary type of quarterback in terms of throwing. It was all 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but it was kind of the Green Bay Packers sweep down then, and it was a totally different game than you see today. But Francis was such a genius, first of all, in terms of his thinking abilities, and such a competitor that when he was with us, he wasn't just always on the go. He we had a pretty good line, and he got pretty fair protection, so he didn't have to run around a whole lot. Mm-hmm. When he did, we were awfully glad he did, and he got a lot of us out of trouble for a time or two. But for the most part, we had a passing game where he would take a little roll out to the edge of the pocket, and if something didn't happen right away in front of him, then he'd just go. and that was more of a design thing. So, I could see there were a few times where you didn't know where it was at, and that got frustrating, but not so much, not at the end of his career.
Mm. And Ed, we often talk, Tony and I, about the old Metropolitan Stadium and how incredibly cold, and it was a different era. Now we watch these Thanksgiving Days games with the black and blue division playing indoors. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, it's.
But
it's not you guys.
Does a kid from California ever get used to the cold in Minnesota? Is that something you just had to deal with?
Yeah, I'm practicing.
You know what? It was kind of interesting. Bud's whole thing was that it was our advantage, and I really believed it and bought into it. I mean, we practiced in it and we played in it, and the truth of the matter was it never really was that big of an issue. I played in 2 games that were much colder when I was in San Diego. Not in San Diego, but the playoff game against Cincinnati was
yeah.
80 below with the wind chill. And we never played anything like that in Minnesota. So it was, I think Minnesota would have been in more championship games had they stayed outdoors,
Yeah.
I think it was that big an advantage to be outdoors. And it's the psyche of it all, too. The equipment mans go berserk, men go berserk, and they don't know. They put it in their court and footwear and blah, 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 blah. And by the time you get out on the field, you're the abominable snowman. You can't move, and it's just an advantage to have worked in that environment and not worry about it.
And you find yourself going back to San Diego to finish your career, Ed, back to the great weather. But what a difference, I mean, as far as we get the impression that the people in San Diego, especially Southern California, is very laid back, not as rabid as, say, the fans in Minnesota. Is that correct?
It's a different fan.
Yeah.
But they love their football, and they always have. I was born and raised in San Diego, and I grew up going down and watching the Chargers play, sneaking in and, doing whatever I could to get in back then. And it wasn't the game it is today, obviously. But, the people were still excited about it, and the people were excited right up to the end that the Chargers left. And, a lot of them are deeply hurt by that. And, a lot of them are driving up there and finding new ways to enjoy them. I'm still a Charger fan and always will be, but it hurt just from the standpoint of being a fan for so long, and then a team, just picking up and leaving for financial reasons, really, and it just seemed, it's like Cleveland when they left. That way, those fans were. There's fans, and the fans back east, and when you go as a player, when you go visit those cities, you realize the different level of a commitment as a fan. Like Minnesota. I mean, the Minnesota fans are, man, they are strong.
For certain.
That's for sure.
It is a little different out here.
And as far as the quarterback, during your days there, Dan Fouts, another incredibly smart guy. There was footballs being thrown all over the field with him in the Air Coryell offense. But as far as his intellect on the field, was there a method to his madness also, Ed?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, every great player is got a certain amount of genius to them. They really do, because it's a genius that's tied into their ability to assimilate information and react in an extremely quick manner. It's a lot of things, but you just have to have at a certain level of intelligence to play the game at a high level. There's no question.
Again, on the phone with former All-Pro lineman Ed White. A couple more minutes with Ed. Tony.
And Ed, as far as being a retired NFL player, with the concussion issue and with the pension issue, what is your stance on that? Has the league done well? Is the league doing better? Can the league do more What might be your perspective?
Boy, I'll tell you, it's a hard one, and it's hard for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think the league in the end is going to do, as much as they can, and I think they'll do everything that they need to do. I think they always do, but they've got to wade out into this arena themselves, because they don't know how deep the water is, and it doesn't. It looks like it's pretty deep. There's a lot of guys that are, not doing well, and it's sad. A lot of guys dying, and I was sitting around a table at a reunion a couple of years ago of our offensive line, and most of the guys had dementia or Alzheimer's, and it was not a fun time. And
so sorry to hear that.
I think that ultimately the game's going to change, the equipment's going to change, but I like watching football, and there's a lot of people that like watching football. I love watching the athletic ability of the different positions.
They're
the
great
running
athletes.
backs, the receivers, the linemen. It just is exciting to watch an offensive tackle like the kid from Michigan State that just dominates people, and that's what it's all about. And it's I think they've just got to straighten some things out and do some things right. I've been more upset about them not handling the national anthem issue in a proper manner than anything, personally. But that's a tough one too, because these kids come from environments that they don't get a fair shake, a lot of them. And I know that because I coach and I've been in and I've seen where they've come from and where they their homes, and they don't start out the blocks the same as a lot of other young athletes. And so there are issues there. It's just that not during a time where we're respecting our country, because our country is what's provided you a job, us a job, the owners a paycheck, and that's my position on it. But that was with a buddy of mine that went to school with and fought in the Vietnam War, and he goes, "I'm going to do with you. I fought to allow these people to protest." I said, "Yeah, that's fine, but no, I agree they have something to protest about, but not during the time where we honor our nation and our flag."
Totally agree. I think we're on the same page.
We're, entirely.
And more on the college player of today, Ed. Obviously, they are bigger for sure, but do you think they're as fundamentally sound as far as the linemen as the players that came down the pike in the 60s and 70s?
Well, I think there are, yes, and I think that athletically, yes. I think that what I see and what I hear from I was with Howard Mudd, who is one of the top line coaches ever to coach and play.
Yes.
And Howard's feeling, and a lot of people's feeling, and I feel the same way, they've negotiated so well, they don't practice enough. And their techniques at the pro level, and the time they spend with contact is very limited. And it creates creates a situation where I don't think technically you can't be as sound with fundamental techniques of playing O-line or whatever if you don't practice that much. And so I think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit because they've cut their work hours in minutes down so much.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
And Tony, I know you wanted to ask Ed about his artwork and how he got into all that. And
you go from the violent world out of the NFL to art.
I went the other way. I was always an artist. I was an artist since you remember the little girls used to draw this horse and you'd get a scholarship.
Yeah, comic books.
I would enter that and they'd write me back, "So you traced this," and I would get so furious because I didn't trace it, So anyway, I've always loved art, and right now because I have had some damage upstairs, that place where art puts me to where it's not a frustrating place. It's really a place of peace and connects with my inner being, and I express that with my art, and I just enjoy it. You know, I really I'm enjoying this journey where art is now the the forefront. In fact, I'm painting as I talk.
I know it's very, very therapeutic for you. You're near the ocean, Ed, and obviously it's probably medicinal, just as good some days. And is doing your art, is that something that you need to be alone to do, Ed? I know you've been married for a long time, but is that something very personal and you need to just be alone at times?
I think at times, and my wife is good with that.
Yeah.
I've got my little studio, and I go out and I spend a lot of time, and I think it is that's part of it, and it's part of the inner reaction, and the path that you're traveling is also part of it, and whatever that is made up of all the things you do together, and so that's also reflected in the work, and so it's all good.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's great art. Go to edwhiteart.com. Again, you can follow Ed on Twitter also, but just the art, you can see a lot of it displayed. It's tremendous stuff. And Ed, I'm sure we'll be talking again on the Thursday night show as we go down the road. We want to wish you and your family
certainly
happy holidays, and thanks for your friendship on this side of the sports arena over the years, and we will talk soon, and happy holidays, and again, thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate all that you guys do for all the old retired guys. It's good to hear them on the radio.
Okay, you stay
Good luck,
well.
guys. Have a great Christmas.
You too. Thank you, Ed. Good night.
Thanks so much.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.